If you have ever looked at someone in a catching stance and thought to yourself, man, they look super uncomfortable, this is the presentation that is going to teach you everything that you need to know. Okay, there are 3 components of catching stances. But first, if you haven't taken the 7-day stance challenge, go to catchmadesimple.com/stance. It is awesome. I've had a ton of people go through this. Okay, so here's my promise for this video. You can quickly fix any stance when you understand these 3 things. Okay, the first thing is what the 3 components of stances are. The second thing is the 2 views to study. And then the third thing is how to coach to good. So if you don't know who I am, my name's Coach Bougie. I played infield my whole life until my junior year of college when I transitioned to a catcher. And fun fact, while I played in college, I played with a guy named Coach Rack. If you know who that is now, we have done NYABC. Super, super fun. So I also get to coach Catcher'S online now, which is a lot of fun. So one of the things I'm really, really passionate about is that the stance is the foundation for everything. And a good stance makes everything easier, and a bad stance makes everything harder. And so here's what I mean by that. If you are in a good stance, blocking gets exponentially easier. If you are in a bad stance, blocking gets exponentially harder. That's just how it is. There's a story in Matthew 7 that Jesus shares at the end of the Sermon on the Mount, which is the first time that he ever publicly addresses a group, and he talks through all of this stuff, and then at the end he says, if you do what I say, then you're going to be like the one that's on the rock. If you don't do what I say, then you're going to be like the one that's on the stand and on the sand, and the storms are going to come, and so you better be ready for it because they're coming. The stance is your foundation, and you're either on the rock or the sand. Okay, so as we go through this, let the lines lead you. There's 3 components. We're going to dive into them right here. So the first component is lower body. Okay, the second component is torso, which is specifically defined from like the middle of the collarbones, like the sternum area, down to your hips. Sometimes people go like this with their head. If you do it from the head, then the line won't be accurate. And then the third thing is your arms and your target. Those are the 3 components. Now there's 2 views to study too. Okay, the first view to study is the front view. You can see what it looks like just like this. And you can probably guess what the next one is. It's not the back view. It's actually the side view. Okay, so we've covered the 3 components. We've covered the 2 views. Now we're going to cover the third thing, which is how to coach to good. This is the simple coaching concept that you already naturally do. And you already naturally do it because it gives you a clear roadmap of what to do. So here's what it looks like. You already do this. This is just giving you a little bit more vocabulary around the things that you're already doing because it works. So first, we have to define what good looks like. This is by far the biggest problem around catching, around skill development as a whole, is we don't know what good looks like. Unless you've gone through the trenches, you just don't really know. You can look at something and say, yeah, that looks pretty good. Or you can look at something and say, that looks not very athletic. And you kind of can intuitively know that. But this presentation is going to help you understand what good looks like across all the different stances, across all the different views. Okay, so in this stance, or in this instance right here, we have good as a flat thigh in our sign stance. Then we need to identify where someone is. So we see, based off of, it's a little small, but if you look at it, it says 10 degrees. So if we know that good is flat, it's parallel to the ground, and we see that we're at 10 degrees here, probably even more. I was a little generous because it only goes to 10 degrees. But then we know, okay, well, we need to get our knees down and our heels up a little bit more in order to get flat. Great. Well, let's do that. And now we're flat. Okay, that's literally how simple this is. You identify or you define what good looks like, you identify where they are, and then you fix the thing that isn't good. Sometimes you need to know the specific cues in order to get it, but it is fairly simple to figure out. One of the things that I'm learning, it's all shapes. It's all shapes. Okay, so if you can know what good shapes are, and then you can know what bad shapes are, you can fix the bad shapes, and all of a sudden the movement is fixed. Okay, so remember my promise. You can quickly fix any stance when you understand these three things: the three components of stances, the two views to study, and how to coach to good. So let's dive in to what good looks like in each of these components: lower body, torso, and arms and target. Okay, so let's go lower body first. The big idea is we want strong lines. Okay, strong lines. So we see a primary is in the shape of an M, a secondary is in the shape of a table, the single knee is in the shape of an N, and a modified kickstand is in kind of a triangle-ish shape, sometimes trapezoid-ish shape. Depends on the player's body. Now, some of the big things here is we want our feet underneath our knees. The one exception to this is modified kickstand. We need this out further. And then on single knee, one of the most common mistakes is this foot will be a little bit too far out and not. And the problem with that is that when you go to block, your knee has to go up before going down, so it's slower. And so a lot of times we actually see this right foot come in a little bit closer. That also helps them rest on their body. You can see right here, if I was being real picky, I would say, hey, let's make sure that this left knee is more directly over your left heel. So either bring your foot in or bring your knee out. In this case, it's probably a little bit of both based off of what we're seeing. Okay. So from the lower body, on the side view, the big idea is we want to see vertical shin guards and connected legs. So we see primary, secondary, single knee, and modified kickstand. Now, single knee, this one right here, you in the primary, we want to be relaxed and connected. Okay, so if there's a lot of space here, that's not good. Okay, now there has to be space on the secondary, but we don't we don't want that really on any of the other stances. On single knee, you can see nice and how we're connected right here and how we're connected on this modified kickstand. Okay, the other thing to notice here on this modified kickstand is that this foot, this heel is a little bit in front of the knee. It's exactly where we want. And here on this single knee, you can see this toe is pretty much in line with this knee right here. Our feet are square. Our feet are square. That's what we want to see from the lower body. Okay, so let's review each stance. So in our sign stance, which we didn't necessarily cover this one, but you can see it's still pretty simple. From the front view, you're either going to get a diamond shape depending on the camera angle, really, because both of these stances are good, but the camera angle is slightly different. You're either going to get a diamond or a trapezoid based off of the height of the camera. Okay. And then from the side, we want that parallel thigh. Okay, now there's other things to look at too, such as the torso, but we're not there yet. So stay with me on the lower body. I promise we'll get there. In our primary stance, right, we want the M shape with our legs, and then we want that connected hamstring and calf where there's not much space here. Okay, in our secondary stance, we want a table. So you can see this one right here. This is a little angled, right? We want to get that right underneath and vertical lines right there. And then here on our secondary, we want a parallel thigh. A lot of times what I see is on the secondary, we'll actually get too high. From the front view, it looks like a house. So rather than a table, this butt goes up, looks like a house. Instead, we want it flat to make it look like a table. And so you can see this line is not parallel. If their butt is too high, we want it to be parallel. Okay. On a single knee, we have an N. And again, you can see this one right here on the top. That foot is maybe a little bit outside that knee. I would really want to see that thing underneath or even a little bit inside of the knee. And then on the side, we're looking for connected legs all the way through. In our modified kickstand, it's a trapezoid. It's kind of like a elongated triangle, right? But we want that side view with the foot just in front of the knee, right? We want it to be nice and simple, then connected as well. Okay, our torso, the big idea here is all torsos are the same, except for your sign stance. The only time that you would ever change your torso is if you're calling a high fastball, then you would get up a little bit taller, okay? But even then, you want to be careful with that because you don't want to give away the pitch. Because sometimes, if the only time that you get tall is on a high fastball, then the other dugout can call and relay it to the hitter. You can also look for the same thing in the other catchers because they might not be paying as much attention as you are. Okay, so the big idea: all torsos are the same. From the front, we want the top of the sternum above the hips. We have a tendency to lean side to side, typically to the side where the knee is up. So in this case, the tendency would be to lean to the catcher's right side, or from the perspective of the viewer or the pitcher, the left side, because that knee is up. And on the side, we want to round the shoulders forward and get our shoulders above our knee. Okay, that's like really the big idea here of what we're trying to get to, of what a good stance looks like from the torso. So from the front, get the top of the sternum over the hips. So in our primary, you can see right there, dead center, perfect. In the secondary, you can see, right, I put this one in here on purpose because you can see we're leaning just a little bit. So we got a good table shape, right? Maybe a small M, which is okay. I'd rather have you be a little bit more M than more house on the secondary. And you can see we got a little bit of lean, right? We want that thing straight down the middle. Single knee, perfect. Modified kickstand, perfect. Right? And now you can see, we can review this, right? See how this one isn't quite an N. See how the hips are kind of up above the line that you would draw if you were to go knee to knee, right? That's something that we would want to fix. Typically, the fix for that is get your left knee out, get your left heel behind you, and then that line will straighten out rather than being kind of two diagonal lines like that. Okay, so now we've layered the lower body into the torso. And then from the side, right, we should see the shoulders roll forward, and we want to see that left shoulder over the knee. And so you can see here how this is all coming together really, really nicely. Now, if you go back, I didn't want to spoil this earlier, but if you go back, there's another picture of a single knee where we look at the connected legs here, and the chest is too far back, right? Right here, this shoulder is a little bit too vertical, and that can be okay in your stance, but as you get to receive, we need to chest press that down so that it is over the knee. It's just really important to be in an attack position. We want to play offense on defense as we're receiving. Okay, the third component, let's define good, the arms and target. So let's define terms real quickly. Our arms are from our shoulder to our hand. You can see I drew it right here. It's like our actual arm. Okay. Our target is your catcher's mitt. So here's what good looks like for our arms from our shoulder to our hand. So this is by far the biggest mistake that I see. Specifically, this one in the middle right here is where the elbow is down and the glove is up. If you watch every big league catcher, almost every big league catcher, they get to this triangle shape, and that is their target. Now, there's a difference between the target and the triple threat when you put your glove on the ground, but the target is where you want to be. You want that left elbow outside of your body. See how in the middle, this left elbow is underneath the shoulder? We want this nice angle and to create an edge outside of our body. And then we want it to be flat, if possible, from our glove to our forearm. You can see these are angled. Now this is flat roughly from our glove to our forearm, but it's tilted, right? We want it out to the side, and we don't want it hitting that knee, which is why getting our shoulders forward on top of our knee is so important if we are in a two-foot stance or right knee down stance. Okay. Our right hand, we need to make sure that it's covered, okay, just so that it doesn't get hit. And then what good looks like with our target, here's a few things. There's quite a few things, but stay with me here. I tried to break it down as simple as I could. So your height, we want it just below our knees. There's typically a little mark on your shin guards right underneath your knees that has the logo of the brand. Get it in line with that. That's what you want. That's your cue. You can also see here, this target, we're too straight. If we can't see the elbow out to the side, that's no good. Okay. The other thing is we want it centered. We want it right beneath our nose. So you can see here, our glove is too far on the side. We need to get it more in the center. Okay. From an angle perspective, angle meaning the angle of our mitt, we want it flat. Okay. We don't want it angled up. We don't want it angled down. We want it flat and ideally in line with your elbow. Okay. We also want it square, meaning that it's not pointing at the shortstop or at the second baseman. We want it facing the pitcher. And then we want it open. And this is another really common one, is we'll see catchers' hands get a little lazier. They might not realize that they need to, open this thing up as much, but we need to be able to see into the entire pocket If you can see the top of the glove, that's not good. We just got to rotate that back. Okay, so I've covered a lot of information here. So here's what good looks like. With your target, we want the height just below the knees. We want it centered just below your head. We want the angle flat. We want it square to the pitcher, and we want it open so that the pocket can see the pitcher. Okay, so now let's go into this for each stance. The big idea is that our target is centered below our legs and our elbows out to the side. So let's take a look at each stance. We got our primary, secondary, single knee, and modified kick. You're going to see elbow out to the side. There are really two shapes too that you can do with this. Sometimes if you need to put the target a little bit lower, it will turn into a bit of like a hexagon shape like this. We just want to make sure that that elbow's out to the side and it's not inside of our body and right underneath our shoulder. Create some space. Okay, from the side view, here's what this looks like. Our primary, secondary, single knee, and modified kickstand is you're going to see, this is actually a really good example, this primary, where the shoulder is a little bit behind the knee. And because of that, you're going to see a steeper angle here with this forearm. Whereas on this one, with this single knee right here, you see a flatter version of this single knee, which is going to allow for that triangle shape from the front view. Whereas this is going to give you that the primary stance is going to give you more of that hexagon shape. So a big part of that is connected because our shoulder isn't on top of our knee. So instead, we have to go at a different angle. Okay, just a little side note there. So you can see our glove is just below our knees, our target's pointing forward from the side view. Okay, so let's come back to my promise. My promise was that you can quickly fix any stance when you understand these three things: the three components of stances, the two views to study, and how to coach to good. If you want help, okay, I can help you. I would recommend taking the 7-day stance challenge at catchmadesimple.com/stance. It's super, super helpful. And here is how I can help you if you want more hands-on help or more information. I have some courses. You can check out the Catching Made Simple method. Go to catchingmadesimple.com/method. And I made an awesome, awesome course for you guys that everyone can afford. And then I also have a program called CatchCore. And CatchCore, there's more information on this. But basically, we take the most important fundamentals of catching and we give you a plan, a step-by-step plan to do that every day at home with video feedback. That's how you saw a lot of these screenshots. These are kids that have gone through the CatchCore program. And if you want more information on what does it take to get to the varsity level, I have a 4-step plan that goes like this. You can watch. There should be another video attached to this here soon. But take a look at that. It's super helpful. And if you want help, reach out to me at catchmadesimple.com. I'm Coach Bourgeois. I'm rooting for you. Get your stances right. It helps so much. Make sure you get those locked in. You don't want a bad stance. It just makes everything harder. I promise. It's the easiest thing to fix. You have no excuse. Now you have all the information and you have the 7-day stance challenge. All right. I'm Coach Bourgeois. I'll catch you later.